Have you ever noticed that sometimes silence speaks louder than words? In arguments, in pain, or in gratitude, silence can heal, transform, and bring peace. But most of us don't know when to stay silent and when to speak. This is the story of a young man who discovered that silence is not weakness, but the greatest strength of all. Long ago, in the kingdom of Magadha, there lived a young man named Anshuman. He was intelligent and hardworking, but he had one serious problem: he was impatient and quick-tempered. If anyone criticized him, he argued back. If someone disagreed, he raised his voice. Even small matters would make him angry, and he always wanted to have the last word. At first, people tolerated his behavior. But as time went on, friends and neighbors began to avoid him. No one liked constant arguments. Slowly, Anshuman found himself lonely and filled with inner stress. One evening, sitting alone, he thought, "Why is my life so full of tension? Why can't I feel peace like others?" But he had no answer. One day, Anshuman heard that the Buddha was giving a sermon in a nearby forest. The whole village was excited. People had said that Buddha's words were simple yet deeply powerful, his compassion unmatched, and his wisdom life-changing. Anshuman thought, "Maybe I will find my answers there." So, he hurried to the forest. When he arrived, a large crowd had already gathered. Buddha sat calmly under a tree, radiating peace. His voice was gentle, but every word touched the hearts of listeners. That day, Buddha said, "If you truly wish to change your life, learn to remain silent in 10 situations." These words struck Anshuman deeply. For the first time, he felt a ray of hope. When the sermon ended, Anshuman bowed before the Buddha and said, "Lord, please explain to me these 10 situations. I truly want to change." Buddha looked at him kindly and said, "To understand, you must practice patience, discipline, and self-reflection. If you are ready, walk with me." Anshuman nodded. His journey of transformation had begun. The first lesson: silence in criticism. Buddha said, "When someone criticizes you, stay silent." Criticism is not always an attack, it can be a chance to learn. If you react in anger, you lose the lesson. But in silence, you can reflect: is the criticism true, or is it false? He gave an example. "Once, a man insulted me with harsh words. I listened silently. When he finished, I asked him, 'If you offer someone a gift and they refuse, who keeps the gift?' The man replied, 'I do.' I said, 'In the same way, your insults remain with you, because I do not accept them.'" Anshuman thought about this deeply. From that day, he decided to remain silent whenever criticized, and to use silence as a mirror for self-reflection. The second lesson: silence in arguments. A few days later, Buddha said, "When someone argues with you, remain silent. Arguments are rarely about truth, they are about ego. In silence, you rise above the ego and see things clearly." He told a story. 2 farmers argued over a small piece of land. Each claimed it was theirs. I asked them, "Did you bring this land when you were born? Will you carry it when you die?" They fell silent. The truth needed no argument. Anshuman realized that silence ends unnecessary battles, while arguments only fuel division. The third lesson: silence before anger. Buddha said, "Anger is fire. If you pour oil on it, it grows. But if you stay silent, the fire dies out." He shared an example. Once, a king sentenced his minister to death in anger. The minister remained silent. The next day, the king regretted his decision and pardoned him. If the minister had argued, he would have lost his life. From then on, Anshuman promised himself never to feed someone's anger with words. The fourth lesson, silence in sorrow. One day, Anshuman felt deep sadness. He confessed to Buddha, "Lord, I cannot bear this pain." Buddha said, "When you are in sorrow, remain silent. Silence opens the door to inner strength. Pain is not the end, it can be the beginning of wisdom, if you stay still enough to listen to it." Anshuman understood that silence was not escape, but a way to face sorrow bravely. The fifth lesson, silence when provoked. Buddha said, "When someone tries to provoke you, remain silent. Silence is not weakness, it is strength. If you stay calm, the provoker loses power." He told a story of a monk who was constantly mocked by villagers. The monk never reacted. Over time, the villagers grew tired and stopped. His silence changed their hearts. Anshuman realized that silence is the most powerful answer to provocation. The sixth lesson, silence in unnecessary help. Buddha said, "Not everyone needs your advice. If someone does not ask for your help, remain silent. Give your wisdom only where it is welcome." Anshuman remembered times when he had forced his opinions on others, only to create arguments. He understood now that silence can also mean respect for another's space. The seventh lesson, silence in pride. Buddha said, "When you feel proud of your knowledge, remain silent. Knowledge decorated with pride becomes arrogance. Knowledge with humility becomes wisdom." Anshuman realized that silence was the true ornament of wisdom. The eighth lesson, silence when truth is unwelcome. Buddha said, "Do not force truth on those who are not ready. Words fall useless on closed ears. Truth must be planted like a seed in fertile soil. Until then, remain silent." He told a story. A sage once told a king that his decisions were wrong. The king grew angry and expelled him. Years later, when the king had suffered from his own mistakes, he welcomed the sage back and listened humbly. The same truth was spoken, but only silence and time prepared the king's heart to receive it. Anshuman understood, timing is as important as truth itself. The ninth lesson, silence when things are beyond control. Buddha said, "Life often brings situations you cannot control. In those times, silence is wisdom. Accept what you cannot change, and calmly look for what you can." He told a story of a farmer who complained of no rain. Buddha told him, "You cannot change the sky, but you can change your efforts. Think silently, and new solutions will come." The farmer adapted and solved his problem. Anshuman learned that silence is the doorway to acceptance and creative solutions. The 10th lesson, silence in gratitude. Finally, Buddha said, "When your heart is overflowing with gratitude and joy, remain silent. True gratitude needs no words, silence itself becomes a prayer." He shared, "A disciple once thanked his master for enlightenment, saying no words could express his feelings. The master smiled and said, 'Your silence says everything.'" Anshuman realized that silence was not emptiness, it was fullness beyond words. The tests of silence. To ensure Anshuman truly understood, Buddha gave him tests. Test 1, criticism. Anshuman was sent to a village where people insulted him. Normally, he would have argued. But remembering Buddha's first lesson, he remained silent. The villagers were shocked at his calmness. Slowly, they respected him. Test 2, argument. Next, Buddha sent him to a shopkeeper who loved to argue. When the man raised his voice, Anshuman stayed quiet. The shopkeeper realized how pointless arguments were. Test 3, Anger. Anshuman was sent to a man known for his temper. The man shouted at him, but Anshuman stayed silent. The man's anger burned out, and he asked, "Why didn't you respond?" Anshuman replied, "I did not want to add fuel to your fire." Test 4, Sorrow. Then, Buddha sent him to a grieving widow. Anshuman sat silently beside her. His quiet presence gave her comfort, more than words ever could. Test 5, Provocation. Finally, he was tested by people who tried to provoke him. He did not react. His silence disarmed them. Through each test, Anshuman felt a new strength growing inside. Transformation. When all the tests were done, Anshuman bowed before Buddha and said, "Lord, I understand now. Silence is not weakness, it is the highest form of wisdom. It has changed me completely." Buddha smiled and said, "True change begins when you stop reacting and start reflecting. Silence is not the absence of words, it is the language of the soul." The teaching for us. This story teaches us that silence is more than keeping quiet. It is a powerful practice that leads to peace, wisdom, and strength. When we stay silent in the right moments, criticism becomes a lesson. Arguments lose their power. Anger fades away. Sorrow turns into strength. Provocation fails. Knowledge becomes humble. Truth waits for the right time. Uncontrollable events bring acceptance. And gratitude becomes divine. Silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is not weakness, it is strength. Final message. So, dear friend, next time you face criticism, anger, or sorrow, pause, breathe, and stay silent. That silence might just change your life. Silence is not the absence of sound. Silence is the voice of peace.